In this episode, I talk about how to custom hole punch paper to fit into your Filofax planner, using an ultrasonic cleaner to clean your pens, and who I would go toe-to-toe with in a fountain pen trivia battle. Hey there, Brian Goulet here of GouletPens.com, and it is episode number 131 of Goulet Q&A. And I am feeling a little bit radio voice today. I don't know, I got a lot of energy. It's gonna be a very kind of upbeat Q&A today, I think. Having a good week so far, been working hard, but a lot of things have been kind of coming together. We've had some FedEx issues on the site, which now seem to be resolved. We've been working for like months to try to get them right, but it seems like our rates are finally coming through just fine, and everything's been working out there. So that's just like a big stress reliever there. Got some cool like behind the scenes stuff on the site that we've been working on that's been coming together. So just a lot of good things are kind of clicking, so that's just really kind of cool. Heads up here, I am going to be doing a little bit different thing on Q&A next week because Jenni is going to be on vacation. Not vacation, she's actually going to be doing her service week. So Jenni's our videographer here. She edits all the Q&As and everything. So she's got to spend hours watching me all the time. My heart goes out to her. She's probably laughing as she's watching this, but she is going to be out. So I recorded a Q&A actually at the end of last week that's going to publish next week. It's going to be a shorter one. I was kind of scrapping some questions together. I was really busy, and so I didn't shoot a super long one, but I figured at least I would get something there for you because I'm really feel like I need to keep Q&A going every single week. So I know how much you like that. So it's there for you. I don't know if it'll be one of my best ones, but I'm trying to make today super great so that it carries you through. However, next week also is going to be, next weekend, not this coming weekend, but the one after, is going to be the Fountain Pen DC Super Show. So that is a very special show to me. It's where I first kind of got involved in the fountain pen world. I had a kind of an epiphany there in 2009, for those of you who don't know the story, that told me I should get involved in fountain pens, and the rest is history, right? It was just that simple. So, not really. But I'm going to be going there. I'm not getting a booth or a table or anything like that. Rachel and I are both going. We're going to hang out, especially on Saturday. We're going to be there like all day. Might hang out some on Sunday, not sure yet. Depends on family commitments and stuff. But I'm really going to try and make the most of the weekend. So that should be pretty cool. Get to see some good pen folk and get to spend lots of time, get to meet you guys face to face if you're going through the show. So if you want to go, I will be there. I will be wearing this shirt, which is the official Goulet shirt. Got the splatter there. Got the logo on the back, undershirt tucked out in the back there. So you can see these shirts, by that time, will probably be for sale on our site. We're waiting to get them in like mid next week. And honestly, we had the prices on them set at, what was it, like $17.95 or something. And I said, Rachel, let's just drop them. Let's make it 15. So we're gonna be selling the shirts for 15 bucks. I figured I don't really need to try to make a lot of money on these shirts. I just want to get these shirts in people's hands so they can proudly wear them and display our name for anyone to know who's like in the know, you know what I mean? Most people are going to be like, what's Goulet? Or what's the Goulet Pen Company? That's probably what you're going to get a lot of times if you wear this shirt. I've gone through that my whole life, let me tell you. Though I will say Robert Goulet helped people to know the pronunciation properly. Went through a phase early in my life, total tangent alert here. Went through a phase earlier in my life when I was a kid when like people still kind of knew who Robert Goulet was from like his Broadway and movies and stuff. And then there was a period in my adolescence where no one really kind of knew who he was anymore, especially people my age. And then Will Ferrell did a Robert Goulet skit, a few of them, on Saturday Night Live. And all of a sudden, like all my friends, this was like high school and college years, all my friends were like, Goulet! And then that kind of stuck. So still around enough where people are pretty aware of it, but now I'm starting to make a name for myself instead of tagging on the coattails of my seventh cousin once removed. Some other things that we got going on here. Tactile Turn is a recent pen brand that we've launched. I'm super pumped for this one, not only because I'm in love with the pens and I think they're super cool, and a pretty good value, especially for an American-made pen. But the guy who's making them, Will Hodges, he and I go back a little bit. Never met him in person, but we've email corresponded going all the way back to, mid last year. So it's been cool kind of getting to see him forming his company. He's got some righteous equipment that he's using to manufacture these pens. He's got some videos of his lathe that are working. You can see those on the product pages on our site. And just cool guy making some cool pens. I think he's gonna have a good future, good stake in the fountain pen community ongoing. So I'm excited to be able to kind of introduce him to you all. So that's really cool. Also, some other products we've got is Goulet notebooks using the Tomoe River paper, now in 52 gram. Some background there. We had some issues with the 68 gram, not issues with the ones that we sold, but issues with supply getting them. So we basically aren't going to be getting any more until September. So they had the option for us to use the 52 gram instead. We were like, well, if it's 52 or nothing, 52 is looking pretty good. So we went ahead and did the 52. And we'll see how you all like them. If you like it and the 68 together, maybe we'll carry both. Who knows? It's all kind of just, we're figuring things out right now. But those are now available. We have all the sizes and everything on our site, so you can go check those out. And then the summer premiere, the Edison Nouveau premiere, which I didn't grab, but it's on our site. We got another shipment of them in. We were out for a little bit. I will say we're going to run out before we hit our end of our season here. That seems to be kind of the MO we've had lately. But we got another batch in, and then we're gonna have another small batch after that, and then it's gonna be gone. So you have a little bit of time, but probably not more than, you know, maybe a few weeks. So if you are really digging the Neptune's Pearl, I would say probably bump that up on your list because it's not going to be around until the end of the summer. Another restocking that we got going on was Cursive Logic, which is the really, really cool book. It's been very popular so far. That teaches cursive handwriting in a matter of a couple hours. So honestly, it's a really cool system. And we got some videos and stuff about how that was kind of put together. So I recommend you check that out. 29 bucks, and you can teach yourself or your kids how to write cursive in a matter of hours. Pretty cool. Very neat system. I'm very proud to you know, be helping in that way to you know, teach people cursive who are interested in doing it. And then the last one, this is exciting. We're getting some Leuchtturm planners in next week and restocking Leuchtturm grids. We've been waiting on them forever. We were kind of told mid-August or so. It looks like they might come in a little bit early. So if all goes to plan, we should be restocked on them next week. So that's very, very exciting because we have a lot of people that want those. Very hot for bullet journaling right now. And I know, trust me, I know you want them, and we're gonna get them. We're ordered a lot. Just been waiting for them to come in. All right. Let's get into the questions, shall we? All right, we're gonna start off with some pen and writing questions. I have 9 total questions this week, so I better get cranking. All right, here we go. This is going to be starting off from eclectidbits on Instagram. What do you do when you have a penvelope filled with inked pens, but you're bored and want to try something else? That's a great question, eclectidbits. You know, I run into the situation myself. My personal situation has been to get another penvelope and fill it with more pens. That may or may not be practical for you. I personally, just to show you my personal backpack, right? Like, this is what I got going on. I'll carry pens around on me like that. I got a Visconti 12 case here that's filled with pens. I have a 3-pen case here. I got a couple of pens that are shoved in the backpack here, and then I have an Aston 10 pen case in the front. Okay, I am probably not your normal pen user. There's a lot of things about me that aren't normal, but that would be one of them. I probably carry more pens on me than most people, and that kind of makes sense because I'm a pen dude. You know, I never know when I'm gonna need every variety of pen possible, so I carry a bunch around with me, and a lot of them are inked. That said, I also have to clean a lot of pens because there's no way I can use, you know, dozens of pens that are inked with regularity. So I end up cleaning a lot of pens. So you got a couple options. You can either get another carrier to carry more pens, which is certainly a viable option that I tend to exercise frequently. You can take the pens that you have, right? They're inked up. If they're not dry yet, then what you can do is you can dump the ink back into the bottle if you want to. Now, I know that's controversial. Some people will absolutely swear against taking the ink and dumping it back into the bottle. Make sure you know which ink that you had in the first place. You don't want to go dumping an ink into the wrong bottle. That would not be great. But if you have the ink and you know what it is that's in that pen, you can dump it back in there. I do it. It's really, it's okay. generally to do that. If you end up having a problem, then you're going to blame it on me. That's okay too. It's really your responsibility. So, gotta put a little disclaimer out there. So, you know, but really you're going to want to clean the pens and then change the color, right? So that's pretty much how it works. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Not a super elaborate answer. Carry more pens or clean out your pens and fill them with something else. Those would be the two answers. But my approach is usually to just carry more pens. All right, here we go. evanrog on Instagram. Hello, I'm a college student and I often find myself not using so ideal paper. I find that finer nibs work better on this sort of paper, but I'm a sucker for super smooth nibs. What pens have you found to be a good balance between fine and smooth? Big fan, by the way. Thank you, evanrog. I'm a big fan of yours. This isn't just a college student issue, all right? This is one of the things that you will come to realize when you get older and you become an adult in the real world is, you know, most companies tend to use paper that's just as cheap as what the college students can afford. So good quality paper, at least in the US, good quality paper is not in abundant supply unless you happen to work somewhere like a fountain pen retail company. We use good paper around here, but that is not the norm. I would say most companies, I don't know, maybe if you work at some companies that care about that kind of thing, they might, but in general, probably wherever you work is not going to have much better paper, so there's not a whole lot of hope there. So I get asked all the time about, you know, which nibs and inks and stuff like that prevent bleed through on junky paper and all that kind of stuff. So that's totally cool. So yes, when you're dealing with fine nibs, to get to your question here, when you're dealing with fine nibs, obviously the finer, the smaller the tip size, the more likelihood you're going to feel any scratchiness or any imperfection on that nib. So it really takes a lot of skill to get a very fine nib to write smoothly. Some of that inherently is just as you get to like extra fines and even some ultra extra fines on some nibs, it's just going to feel toothy because there's just not that much material that's touching the paper. Paper, when you actually look at it under some element of microscopy, what am I trying to say? Magnification, let's just go with that. It's actually fairly rough. And yes, you can get different coatings, different sizings, different, protective things to go over top of the paper. But, you know, if it's a wood pulp paper especially, or cotton paper, it's all very fibrous and it's very like, it looks like a hairy sweater. You know, and as you're writing across it, it's got, you know, essentially a texture to it. It's a very fine texture and you can't really necessarily feel it with your fingertips, but it's definitely there. And when you're writing with a finer and finer and finer fountain pen tip, some of that is going to be just, there's not that much there on the tip to help smooth out some of that texture that you're feeling on the paper. So that's going to be part of it, but especially when you get to the finer nibs, if there's any level of improper adjustment or anything like that, you're just going to feel it so much more. And it takes quite a bit of skill to grind and smooth nibs to be very, very fine. Now, you didn't ask me about like the super finest stuff in the world, so I'll just kind of talk about some of the generally just the finer pens that tend to work pretty well on the cheaper paper, but also still feels pretty smooth. One of my favorites is the Pilot Metropolitan with a fine nib, inexpensive pen, great for college students, lots of cool colors and stuff like that. Really great writing fine nib, even though it's only 15 bucks. It's just one of the best values out there. I tout it all the time, love it. The Pilot Custom 74, this is my famed blue one, which actually has a medium nib on it, but I also have a smoke one in fine that writes surprisingly smooth. So this is a bit more expensive, around $160, but the nib on it is fantastic. So I like that one a lot. And then continuing with Pilot, because Pilot makes a lot of great nibs, the Vanishing Point as well. This one is the Twilight, no longer available, so I'm being a total dweeb by showing it to you, but the fine nib on this one is also quite smooth. Another one, getting away from Pilot. Pilot does make a lot of really good fine nibs, I will say. Lamy 2000, the extra fine nib. Now the extra fine and fine are not vastly different from each other, but the extra fine, it's a German company. You're gonna wanna go with probably towards the extra fine, just because it's a little bit broader. It's a European nib. They tend to grind their nibs, their fine nibs a little bit broader. I will say it's got a bit of a sweet spot on it. So it takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's a great pen, love it. Lastly, I have the Platinum Preppy Extra Fine. Now this is quite fine as well, and this is only a $5 pen, but it actually writes pretty great. You can use cartridges, a converter. It's all Platinum proprietary though, not as many options there. The converter would be fine though. But you can also eyedropper convert this, which is kind of handy if you're a college student because it just requires an O-ring and a little bit of silicone grease and you're good to go. So that is another great option for a fairly low price that I think you can check out. One last thing you can do is the Goulet nibs that we have are number 6 size nibs. There's a variety of pens that will fit that. Pens like Jinhao's, Noodler's pens. Noodler's pens are a little wet. You may want to go the Jinhao route, but if you take a Jinhao that takes a number 6 nib, which is all the Jinhaos that we carry, you can put a Goulet Extra Fine on there, and it's actually going to write pretty great for around 25 bucks total investment. So not bad. Some decent options there for you. Hopefully that can help you out. And good luck, study hard, okay? Don't party too much. Do some, but not too much. All right, in questions. This, your handle, ilovechubbyunicorns on Instagram. Gotta love the internet. Okay, I've just got a question about the J Herbin 1670 inks. I've got a bottle of the sparkling inks from Diamine, Shimmertastic, but the sparkles are quite difficult to clean out of my pens. Thus, I only use them in my Lamy, Vista, or Safari. Are the 1670 inks easier to clean out or more on par with the sparkling inks? It's a good question. In fact, Drew, who's my customer care manager and has been with me for 5 years, so he's seen the evolution of all of these different 1670s come out. He just made an observation to me, I'm not joking, like a couple of days ago. And he just walked into my office and he's like, you know, he's like, our customers are saying that there's definitely a difference in how the Shimmertastic inks clean from the J Herbin inks. And he says that the J Herbin inks are a little easier to clean than the Shimmertastic. Says the Shimmertastic, something about them, they just like cling and get into places more, and the J Herbins clean out a little bit easier. So I don't know exactly what it is. I think it has to do with the type of the sparkles, if you will, for lack of a better term, that they use. You know, they're two completely different companies using two different things. So I think there's something going on between the sparkles that the two are using. Now, there are some reports every now and then of flow issues and stuff like that. Definitely at this time of year when it's really hot, ink is evaporating, the sparkles stay behind, you need to clean the pens regularly, use them regularly, and stuff like that. I know I used Emerald of Chivor in a broad TWSBI Eco that I had for 8 months, same ink. You know, I didn't use it a ton, but same ink was sitting in there for 8 months. And it took that long for it to actually dry up and clog and stuff like that. So it'll work pretty well. So if you are in the situation, I will say that anytime you're using like an unusual type of ink like this, it's usually best to try to keep it dedicated to a specific type of pen, just because, you know, you don't want to go throwing this sparkly ink into every pen that you own, and then you got to thoroughly clean out. It will clean out, but you got to thoroughly clean out every single pen that you own, and that's really kind of annoying. Try to stick to pens that are a little bit easier to clean. Anything that's a cartridge converter fill is almost always going to be easier to clean because the converter comes off. You can flush water straight through it with a bulb syringe. You can use a pen flush, which is kind of like the next level to be able to get that sparkle junk out of there. If you're using a piston fill or something like that, especially if it's a demonstrator like my TWSBI, TWSBIs are okay though, because you can actually disassemble them and kind of clean them out and take the feeds out and stuff like that. But other pens, it may or may not be as easy to do. If you got a Mont Blanc or a Pelican or something like that, it may not be disassemblable quite as easily. So then you get into a situation where you get sparkles all over the place and you gotta, you know, really go through a lot to clean them out. So I would say if that's the case, you know, the 1670s are probably gonna do a little better for you. The Diamine inks are pretty great too, though. Honestly, I wouldn't necessarily get 100% hung up on the cleaningness of it. If either way, if you're getting into using sparkly stuff in your pens, it's gonna be an elevated degree of cleaning that's necessary, but it's a little bit easier with the J Herbins. So at least that's been my personal experience, and that's been some feedback we've gotten from our customers. All right, I got some paper questions. This is from @DaveBurrowsSuck on Twitter. Oh, Dave Burrows UK, probably. Sorry, Dave Burrowsuck. Anyway, Dave Burrows UK on Twitter. Could you use Rhodia number 16 A5 dot pad and somehow hole punch it and put it into the new Filofax A5 notebooks that you have? You know, literally, I went to prepare this question and I'm now realizing you're asking me about the A5 notebooks. I prepped everything for A5 planners. I misread the question. So I'm going to answer both. Okay, so the short answer to your question, I'm glad I have a Filofax notebook handy here. Do I have a Filofax notebook? Dang it, I think I gave it to Jen to work out. Okay, well, I don't have an A5 one. Jeez. But I do have a smaller one, so it'll help to show you anyway a little bit of what's going on. So these little A5 notebooks, I don't have anything that I carry that will allow you to see what's going on here. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in. Can you see that? Oh, it's a little bright, huh? So, okay, so there's the paper. I'm gonna hold it up so you can see what's going on. It's got this little D shape in it, right? And it's made so that you can remove it, okay? So it's a very special hole punch. I personally don't have anything in my store that will allow you to hole punch paper like this. However, I have heard and read and gotten feedback from customers that you can do that. The Staples arc system, as well as the, what is it called, the Levenger Circa system, I believe is not identical to this, but similar. I think their D shape goes the opposite direction. So it's, instead of going like curved and then the flat part here, it's the opposite. So the D's end up looking like this, but on the other side, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but I have heard, and they sell hole punches that can do that. I have heard that it does work and fit into the Filofax because the spacing and everything is still the same. So that's an option for you. In order for me to carry them, I would have to, those are both like proprietary brands. So if I was to carry a punch that did that, I would have to buy it at full retail from them and then mark it up myself. And what's the point of that? So you can just go directly to them and check that out. I'm also going to answer the other question because I literally like ran around and pulled everything to get this. So Filofax planners also do have a hole punch. This is a new offering that we have. Filofax planners don't have like the best paper in them, but you can hole punch them. So I'm going to answer this question as well. There's two different hole punches that we carry for the Filofax planners. It is different than the Filofax notebooks, okay? Notebook, planner, different paper, different hole punch, different everything, other than the name Filofax. The two different hole punches that I have for the planners, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, is a plastic one, so it's called the travel one. So, you know, it gets the job done. It's got a little ruler on it, not super fancy. The super fancy one is this aluminum one, which is much more expensive. This one you're looking just under 20 bucks. This one you're looking like 90 bucks. It is a bit of an investment to do this one. Not gonna be something that you're gonna wanna get unless you're like a super planner enthusiast probably, or unless you are like good friends with a bunch of Filofax planner users and you all wanna go in and get one of these. I will say this one does work better. So very simple concepts. The way that these planners work is, this is the A5 Lockwood here in the garnet color. It's a 6-ring binder, opens up just like every other binder you've ever used. You can take your paper, whatever you want to use. So I'm gonna use, you know, just a Rhodia pad. I'm just gonna use one sheet for the ease of things. You can't use like a ton of sheets at a time. These planners are not like unbelievably robust. Sorry, not planners, but these hole punches are not unbelievably robust. Certainly the plastic one, you would need to use less sheets than the other one, but very simple concept. It's got a little stop in here. You kind of hold it in there. Oh boy, I'm like freehanding this. Probably should put it down on the table. Boom. You punch it. Little pieces of paper go everywhere, but it gets the job done. There. Oh, I don't know what I did there, but you get your holes, you put it in. Boom. Now I got Rhodia paper in my thing. So it is pretty cool. If if you're doing it all the time, all day long, you may want to do this. If you have like 14 planners, you probably want to invest in one of these. But if you're just doing it once, this would get your job done. And then the aluminum one is actually really cool. I'm going to use the same sheet here and punch the other side. You can get a pretty clean punch with this plastic one. The aluminum one is definitely a lot easier though. You stick it in here, Set it in there nicely. Boom. Voila. Nice clean holes. Clip it in. So either way gets the job done. The aluminum one is just a little bit nicer, as you would expect for what you're paying. Cool. Feel so dumb for answering the wrong question, but you got kind of a bonus there. And now I got little holes everywhere. The aluminum one also catches it in this nice little tray in the bottom too. That's kind of a nice little bonus as well. So you just kind of pop off this little end piece, and then all your pieces are right in here. So a little easier to clean as well. Gets a little added bonus there. So cool. What's next? All right, Darth Nibs on Instagram. Are notebooks, Quo Vadis Habana for example, best stored vertically or horizontally? Vertically or horizontally? It's a good question. I actually had to research this one a little bit. Read some blogs, looked around, ended up checking the Library of Congress website because it talks about how to store books, which I think this would be considered a book, right? It's a notebook. Oh, I just realized you can't see my desk. There you go. So there's actually a couple different ways you can do it. Generally speaking, if you are storing them on a bookshelf like this, it's recommended that you stand them up like so. That's part of how they're designed. And it's recommended that you carry them standing straight up, so you can look at it. This is how it goes on the shelf, just like I have these books. Straight up on the shelf, not leaning like these ones are, because if they're leaning, that can cock the spine just like that. So you want it to be standing straight up and down. That's why you use bookends, right? To keep them from kind of slanting like that. I don't have the best book hygiene up here, as you can see, but straight up, and you don't want them crammed in there. You want them standing up, and what I heard recommended was that there's enough space so that you can easily slide an envelope in between each book. So that's about it. And it wants to be in a cool, dry place, yada, yada, yada. Appropriate level of humidity is, but preferably below 55% humidity, but 35% is ideal, or even lower. If you are storing them in a box, or like storing them for more permanent storage, there's a little more recommendations for that kind of thing. So if you're gonna be storing them flat like this, then it's recommended that you keep them completely flat, and that you put the largest diameter size on the bottom. So for example, I would not want to take my little personal size notebook here and then put this big A5 guy on top of it, because eventually it's going to kind of sag and cause problems. So I'd want to put the biggest one on the bottom and then a smaller one on top. It's recommended that you don't go any higher than 12 inches when storing them, because then they can crush or do something like that. Don't wrap them in plastic, but you do want the container generally to be somewhat sealed. If you're using a cardboard box, it says to use one that's acid-free and lignin-free. So special boxes made for storing books, because if they're acidic and stuff like that, it'll cause the paper to yellow and wear easier. Also, you got to be aware of things like bookworms and silverfish, which are insects that like to eat books. So you have to be careful of those. You can use plastic tubs to store them in, which certain types of plastic, which I wrote down because I couldn't remember it, polyester, polypropylene, and polyethylene would be the types of plastic you'd be looking for. So those will better protect against pests in general. And then you want to store them in a cool, dry place. And then it says if you're going to be storing them on the floor, that you don't want to have them directly on the floor. You want it to be about 4 inches off the floor and about 4 inches from any walls, ceilings, or floor area, because of moisture. Especially if it's a concrete floor, like a basement or something like that, and you have a cardboard box directly on the floor, that moisture is going to seep up through there and cause you problems and create mold and then get all up in your books, and it's going to be gross. So don't do that, okay? So now you're a little more enlightened, but there's all kinds of good resources out there. Literally in like 10 minutes, I was able to research all this various information that you can have about storing books in general. But this is something like the Habana is a great option for storing journals long term, because it's acid-free, pH-neutral paper, so should last, bleach-free, all that kind of stuff. So it should last a good long time. All right. Got a couple of personal questions here. Ooh, getting personal. All right, Ewing N on Facebook says, what does Brian recommend as good things to wear for an epic pen show like the DC Pen Show, whether for fashion, practicality, or general nerdiness? Well, it is pretty widely known throughout the fountain pen community that the quintessential pen show clothing item is the fishing vest. And it's, you know, it's to be celebrated, okay? And the reason that fishing vests are so popular is because they are covered in pockets, right? So the more pockets you have, the more pens you can stick in them, right? And I'm not joking, when you go to the shows, it is nothing to see a good number of people wearing fishing vests filled with pens. Doesn't have to be just fishing vests though. It could be, you know, there's a lot of like photographers that wear clothes that have a lot of pockets in them. So there's a lot of photography type clothing as well. You know, there's a lot of like denim shirts and things like that, like woodworker shirts that have, you know, pockets and stuff. So really the pockets are the key. So maximum pockitude is what you're looking for at a pen show, because you want to be, you're like a peacock. You want to flaunt all of your fancy pens on your body so that people looking at you can know, wow, that guy's got a lot of pens on his body. That's one approach, right? I personally have never taken that approach. Maybe I will though. I don't know. I'm not joking. I have thought about going out and buying a fishing vest to go to these pen shows. I don't know. There's still time. Maybe I will next week. That'd be kind of fun. But then if I did that, you wouldn't see the logo on my back. So I don't know. I'm still debating, okay? Maybe I could cut out a logo, or maybe I should get a Goulet fishing vest. I know. Anyway, I'm wondering my thoughts here. Don't commit me to that, okay? I don't know if that's gonna happen, but it is gonna be fun. I'll be wearing this shirt. Rachel probably will too, so we can be noticed a little bit. We are gonna start to sell these shirts, so there might be other people walking around with these shirts too. I don't know, I think that'd be kind of fun. So it's probably not gonna be that many people. Actually, that would be kind of cool. We'll like totally get pictures together or something if you have this shirt at the pen show. I don't even know if you would get it in time because we don't even have it for sale yet. Anyway, I am like multiple personality tonight, aren't I? Anyway, it's not even tonight. It's 4:16 in the afternoon as I'm recording this right now. But there you go. As far as other things that people wear, it's really kind of just normal clothing. You know, I would say whatever makes you comfortable. It's DC in August, so it's pretty warm. It's air conditioning and stuff inside the hotel, but in the atrium especially, like the main like lobby atrium area where you kind of first enter the show, there's like a big glass ceiling at the top there, and it gets pretty hot if you're standing in there. So you're not going to want to go in like your Sunday best. You're going to want to go in like, you know, more comfortable clothing, you know, with some ventilation in it. So that's what I would encourage you to do. Really, whatever just kind of, you know, represents you the best, I think would be good. Cool. But if you are at the show, holler at me. It's gonna be fun. All right, this is from matthewamoser on Instagram. Who would win in a fountain pen trivia duel between Brian, Stephen Brown, and Matt Armstrong of the Pen Habit? Well, a duel is between two people, so I don't know. Are they teaming up against me? Or am I with Stephen teaming up against Matt? I don't know. It's a good question. But what do you call a duel with three people? I guess that's just a fight or a battle or a skirmish, a kerfuffle, perhaps. I don't know. Is there a thrice plural version of a duel? I don't know. Post in the comments if you know. That'd be kind of interesting. It is a tough question. I'll be honest. I gave this question legitimate thought because, you know, I've been doing videos longer. Stephen Brown came off a little bit later than me, but he has done a lot of videos. Matt Armstrong has also done a lot of videos. He has gotten like really deeply technical in the multicam and everything on his videos. So I would think that like Matt might be like more technically proficient on some of the pens that he reviews. I don't know. I have done a bunch of pens, but even recently, I haven't done quite as many like detailed pen reviews, and it's mainly been like newer products and stuff I've carried. Steven, I definitely think would have a lock on like certain types of pens, like Visconti. He's got a lot of knowledge there. A lot of things like Yardeled and some of the like European, like the bigger European brands. He definitely like schools me when it comes to pen pronunciations of literally the European brands. I could totally botch those. In fact, great opportunity here to clear myself. When I said the J Herbin 1670 color, I totally said it wrong last week. It's Cursive de Chypre, not Chypre. I was wrong last time. I should have Google translated that situation, but you know, you live and learn. So I've now corrected the error of my ways in the middle of this random question. I should have said it at the beginning. Anyway, so Stephen got the pronunciation thing down, and he knows more about like Mont Blanc and probably, I don't know how much Matt knows about Mont Blanc. They both know more than I do about that. And then Stephen knows a lot of like the inexpensive kind of overseas brands. So he would definitely school me there. I don't know. I really don't know. I think it would be close. It would be really interesting to see like a pen rap battle between the three of us. That would be pretty funny. I'm not going to promise that's going to happen. That would be a lot to coordinate because I'm in Virginia, Matt Armstrong's in Washington, and then Stephen Brown is in the Netherlands. So we are like not anywhere near each other. It's kind of cool, actually, the fact that we can all be doing that, being in completely different parts of the world. Pretty neat. But I got mad respect for both of those guys, and I'm on good terms with them. It's really cool. So I would love to do more collaborative stuff with them, but it's just hard to coordinate being so far apart. But I don't really know that I could pick who would win between a pen trivia battle. It probably would depend a lot on the subject matter at hand, but you know, you guys, if you're ever watching this, let me know. That could be interesting content for the future. Little collab going on between the three of us. Hit me up. We've all got each other's emails. All right, let's round this out with a couple of troubleshooting questions, shall we? This is from DS Malc on Instagram. I don't know how to say this. DS Mal C, letter C. Could you give some tips for the use of an ultrasonic cleaner? I know to get things as clean as possible before going in there, but which parts do I give the ultrasonic treatment, and more importantly, which do not go in there? All right, I have answered some questions about ultrasonic cleaners before, and I'm really thirsty, so I'm gonna take a sip of water. I don't know if I've ever actually shown my ultrasonic cleaner, so I went and grabbed it, figured what the heck. And of course, Drew had it in his office and it was filled with water, so I had to dump it out, but that's how much I love you guys. I wanted to show you what's going on. My ultrasonic cleaner is nothing fancy. Actually, it is kind of a fancy ultrasonic cleaner. It is a Chicago Electric Power Tools, which is funny because it's made in China. It's a Harbor Freight situation. They have like a couple of different grades of ultrasonic cleaners. This is the bigger one because it's go big or go home, right? And I didn't want to go home, so I went big. So I wanted to be able to clean a lot of pens at once. I honestly don't use my ultrasonic cleaner that much. Drew uses it a little bit more. I don't use it that much. The way that this thing works, you fill it with water. It's got this nice little bay area here. You fill it with water. It's got this little tray because if you got a lot of little parts and stuff, you don't want to be fishing around in there. So you can use this tray to help lift out your pieces. That's what that's all about. But you do your little setting, boop, boop, boop. I don't have it plugged in right now, so I can't really show you. But the thing just like vibrates, you know, that's what it does. It makes this sound, it's kind of like, it makes this little buzzing sound. And it just kind of like sends these ultrasonic waves through the water, and then it like shakes the ink out of your pen, for lack of a better term. That's how this thing works. You do it for a while, you know, 45 minutes to an hour, maybe a couple hours if it's really bad, and it helps to clean out your pens. So you're asking me about like what parts and stuff like that. Well, it's really just a pen that's kind of shaking in water. So it's not really gonna hurt anything. So really any pen that you would be okay soaking in water, it's pretty much gonna be okay here. The only things that I would really try to avoid is any like really complex, you know, like filling mechanisms and stuff like that, such as like a Schaefer snorkel, or, you know, certain things that you have water that you don't want to go in certain places. I will say a pen like my beloved Pilot Custom 74, one thing I don't like about it so much is the fact that it's got like 2 different layers inside the grip section. And so ink can actually get up in here. In fact, I actively have ink up in between, like not in the nib, like where the nib and feed are, but in between the 2 different sections in the grip section. There's space right there, and you can see, let me see if I can get in here, because I really want you to see this. It's gonna be hard to show, but let's see what we can do. I'm looking at my monitor right now. There we go, we're getting in there. Okay, so look at here. You can see my nasty fingernail that I like to hide. I caught that in a church door when I was 5 years old, and it's grown funny ever since. Anywho, it's not what you want to see. Right in here, you can see right there. So that's, oops, where are we at? Right there. That's ink that's in between the layers of my grip section, okay? Boom, right there. It's all up in there. It's kind of annoying. It's kind of translucent. Not super, clear, but you can see it if you know it's there. It could bother you. It's the one thing I don't love about this pen, but I've gotten over it. So if you throw something like this in an ultrasonic cleaner, it's not gonna just like magically suck all this stuff out. It's gonna end up working it like all up into that area. So an ultrasonic cleaner is not, you stick it in there and magically your pen looks perfect when you pull it out. Sometimes the ink is just gonna go up into new areas that it wasn't in already. You can't really control which direction the ink is going. So that can be kind of annoying if you're trying to clean out like a converter or something like that. You can end up getting water into parts that you don't really want to get into. So you gotta just use a little bit of common sense. You know, for example, like if you have the cap and you can't remove the insert and there's ink behind it, if you put it in the ultrasonic cleaner, it could just end up taking that ink, diluting it, and kind of like spreading it all around inside that area. That's kind of some of what an ultrasonic cleaner might inadvertently end up doing that you don't love as much. But in general, though, it's pretty safe. You're not going to cause a lot of harm. If you have a pen that has a complex filling mechanism like a Schaefer Snorkel or something like that, I might avoid that just because, well, I don't really know that much about the Snorkel. I have one, but I haven't studied it deeply. Really what the ultrasonic cleaner is great at is if you have a pen that's like really caked up with ink, especially if you have a pen where you can't remove the nib and the feed, like if it's so caked up you can't pull it out, or you don't know if you'll be able to pull it out, or if you're supposed to pull it out, so you don't want to, but it's not flowing and you just can't get it to write, throw it in the ultrasonic cleaner and it will break up any of that old dried up ink and get it smoothly flowing again. That's really what the ultrasonic cleaner can do for your pen. And that's all I have to say about that. like Forrest Gump here. Oh, I had a couple other notes here. I'm really going off a script here, but a couple other notes like the Mont Blanc Boheme. Rachel's got that. It's a small little pen. I would not throw that thing in there because some of the parts in there are actually not waterproof. So I would not go throwing something like that in there. Or like even the Pilot Vanishing Point. If you have like the body of the Pilot Vanishing Point, it would probably be okay. You know, I'll dump water in here and shake it and pour it all the time. But I don't know. If you dump like the whole body in there, the nib unit would be fine. But the body, I don't know if I would go messing around with that as much. It would probably be okay. But things like that, I might just be more inclined to stay on the safe side and leave it out of the ultrasonic cleaner. All right, last question for the week. You ready to go? Here it is. All right, feed between the lines on Instagram. I like that. I have a Lamy Studio Palladium 14 karat pen, and every time I ink it up a few hours later, there are a bunch of black spots and almost bumps on the grip. It looks like the ink has gathered on the grip from evaporation from the nib and could possibly ruin the Palladium if left inked for days in a row. I'm very disappointed with this from such an expensive pen. Is this normal? All right, so I actually have a Lamy Studio Palladium. It's a very beautiful pen. I enjoy it very much. So a little bit of facts about Palladium here. It is in the platinum family. It's actually the softest of the platinum metals. Not particularly meaningful, but it's often, ooh, it's a roller ball. Forgot about that. Sorry, it's a bad example. But you at least get to see the finish. The nib unit and everything is obviously would be different on that. Why do I have a roller ball? It must have been a gift. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. I'm ashamed now. I didn't even open up ahead of time. How bad is that? Anyway, will not divert me from giving you the proper answer. Okay, so this material, this Palladium material, it's in the platinum family, and it's actually very corrosion resistant. In fact, they actually make nibs out of palladium, such as Visconti, right? But also it's been used as a coating on certain two-tone nibs for quite some time. More vintage than not as much these days, because it is, you know, a rare metal. But it's a very durable material that's not going to like stain and tarnish and stuff very easily. So the concern you have about it like ruining the finish, I don't think you need to worry about that. I will say though, because of this finish, it's a matte finish, so it might be a little bit more effort to clean this than it would be if it was a glossy finish, right? So that right there might throw you off a little bit, but it's going to be okay because the material is pretty durable and it's going to hold up. I was going to say a couple other things about this. Yes, so why is it doing it in the first place, right? Why are you getting these spots on there and stuff like that? Especially this time of year, it's very hot. You're getting a lot of evaporation that's going on. Even if the pen's just sitting there, if it's getting really hot, ink is mostly made of water, so it's going to sort of evaporate and then build up in the little microcosm atmosphere that's inside your pen cap, and then it's going to condense and settle down on other parts of there. So it's not anything unusual at all for a lot of different pen brands to end up with a little bit of condensation. In fact, I can show you an example with this pen that I have here. Zoom in again. So looking at the cap of my Pilot Custom 74, which is nice and sealed and has a nice insert inside of there. You can even see there's a nice little spot. And there's a couple other spots. There's all these tiny, tiny little spots inside here that show you exactly what is going on inside your pen. And sometimes it will end up on the nib. Here's my Pilot pen. So I got a little spot on my nib there. Some of this is just general carrying it around. Sometimes it happens in other ways. Let me see here if I have this pen I've been carrying around in my pocket, Homo sapiens. I get that too on the nib. Little splatters there. You see that there? It can definitely end up on the grip. So I think it just has to do with the fact that the way that your Lamy grip is designed is it's not like the Custom 74 here. Like, it's got the insert that stops the condensation from getting onto the grip. The Lamy, the whole pen is like the grip is all up in there. So it's just the way that it's designed. When it condenses and gets up there, it's getting onto your grip. That's all. It's a little bit annoying because, yeah, you got to wipe it off. But it's not going to hurt your pen long term, unless you're using some kind of like crazy ink or something that melts pens. No discussion about which ones should do that, right? Bay State Blue. No, it'll be fine. Yeah, so I wouldn't worry too much about what ink you use in there. I wouldn't worry too much about the longevity of your pen. It's just, you know, a little annoying, and I totally understand that. It just is what it is. But yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with the cost of the pen, really. Especially the fact that that one's got a gold nib. Like the other Lamy Studios are the exact same design, and might be, you know, $70, $80 just with a steel nib. So it's not really about the price. It's more about just the general design of the pen, and that's kind of just something you deal with. And look at some of the other ones I've been carrying around if it's got it too. My Tactile Turn. Oh yeah. Ooh yeah. Yeah, look at this nib. Check this one out. So just carrying it around. I've been carrying it around in my pocket. So especially if you carry it around, you're going to be dealing with, yeah, look at that. Look at that nib. So yeah, you're going to get some of that. It's going to get on your grip sometimes. It's just part of the deal. And the heat, carrying it around on person especially, is going to exacerbate that issue. If you are going in and out of your hot car, and the more heat there is, the more it's likely to happen, because evaporation is going to happen more in the heat. It's going to be a fact of life. Not a whole lot you can do about it other than try to keep your pen in a cool place. Try and keep the humidity down as low as possible. Maybe. You know, one thing I would be interested in, this is a total speculation, but one thing with a pen that dries out too much, you can sometimes cut a tiny piece of sponge and wet it and stick it in here, almost have it like a little humidor. I wonder if you took a dry piece of sponge and stuck it up in there, if it would help with that issue. Maybe not, but I've never thought of that before. Might be an interesting experiment. Probably wouldn't change much, but maybe. Who knows? All right, that's all I got this week, folks. Question of the week this week. This one is just something I'm trying to spark some interesting conversation, perhaps to possibly generate some future content for you. So I would love it if you could answer this question for me. What was the first thing that you can remember being a big hurdle that you had to get over when you got started out with fountain pens? So you're just getting into the hobby and you remember the first big snag that you hit that you really had to get over to continue on in your fountain pen journey. What was that? I would be very curious to know. That's it. You can check out everything I talked about here for the most part on gouletpens.com. If you have questions for me next week, you're gonna have to wait a week because I already pre-recorded next week, but you can go ahead and leave some questions and I'll pick them up the week after that. I'd love to hear your comments on YouTube and on the blog. I think it would be really engaging to see. Been getting a lot of good engagement. You guys have just been awesome lately. Thank you so much. It's my honor to keep doing this. If you haven't subscribed yet, you definitely should subscribe on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend and great rest of your week. And right on.